face it, there are a lot of enemies in video games that really suck. And you always ask the question, why? Why are these guys in the game? They suck, and they never kill me, and they never do anything. So I decided to do a top 10 list of the enemies that I think are the most useless. Or, the most enemies that suck the most turd, as I worded it. I have a rule with this list. That rule being the enemy actually has to deal damage to the player. It has to actually hinder the player in some way. So, the enemy actually has to be qualified as an enemy, or that's what I would call an enemy. So, obviously, if an enemy doesn't ever attack you, then that's a pretty sucky enemy, and it's not really an enemy at all. So, let's just get to this first enemy in this list. The enemy I've selected for the number 10 slot would be the Deku Scrubs from Ocarina of Time. I always used to think that these guys were called Deku Shrubs, but oh well, Scrubs it is! Deku Scrubs attack by throwing nuts out of their noses, I guess. And apparently they reload apparently they reload their nose gun down in their little bush thing. And then they fire their little nut thing at you. Basically, to deflect their nuts. You use your shield and just simply block. The nut will instantly fly back and hit the Deku Scrub. Why do I think that they're worthy of being the crappiest enemy? Well, all you have to do is just stand there and hold the defend button, and basically they take care of themselves. Sometimes afterwards they'll leap out and you have to chase them, but it's really not all that hard. There's not really anything I have to say except for it's a living bush that shoots nuts. Alright, for the number 9 spot, I've selected Koopas. Now you may ask, why the heck Koopas? When you think of crappy enemies, the first enemy you generally think of is the Goomba. And I was really thinking of putting the Goomba on this list for quite some time. However, I realized that the Koopas are worse. Green Koopas, because they also fall off of cliffs and are idiots. Just like the Goombas. Now, yes, Goombas can fall off the edge too, just like green Koopas, and Goombas are easily killed just by simply chopping on their head. But when you think about it, Koopas are worse. Why? Because when you jump on a Koopa's head, they go into their shell, which allows for you to use them to kill their friends. Traitors. The Koopas are traitors. I mean, you can take out multiple rows of enemies by using a Koopa shell. The Goombas don't allow themselves to be used as weapons, so that's why they're here over Goombas. Turtles! For my number... what number is this? Oh, yeah. 7, I think. I'm bad at maths. Yeah, for my number 7 slot, I have picked the bandits from Skyrim. Why did I pick the bandits from Skyrim? Well, if you've ever played Skyrim, you know that there are bandits littered everywhere, and for some reason, no Jarl ever does anything about it. Bandits are weak, generally. And I'm talking about normal bandits. Sometimes bandit chiefs can be a little bit tough, but normal bandits, they're never really much of a problem. They are equipped with usually iron and sometimes occasionally steel weapons. They usually have fur or sometimes even no armor on, and they're just generally really weak and can be taken down with a couple of hits. So that's all I really have to say about them. Number 6. I've picked the soldiers from Assassin's Creed 3. Why Assassin's Creed 3? Because Assassin's Creed 3 is the only Assassin's Creed game that I own. So it's the only one that I can really say stuff from. Assassin's Creed 3 soldiers, or Assassin's Creed soldiers in general, maybe, I don't know, I haven't really played the other ones that much, sadly, are on this list because, well, of how stupid they are. I don't know if it's the difficulty I picked, or even if there is a difficulty setting. They seem to do almost no damage to my character. You know how you can counter and then easily kill people? Well, why not when Connor, or whatever his face is doing his fancy, overly fancy, let me add, kills to kill people? Like, why doesn't this guy just stab me in the back? It would make these guys infinitely harder if when you were trying to counter kill somebody, another guy would come up behind and, like, whack you with his rifle or something. Do they even have common sense? I mean, they've got you surrounded, but they only attack you one at a time? Seriously? Yeah, that's all I really have to say. Yeah, number 5. I've picked a rather weird enemy, mostly because I was running out of ideas by this point, so I had to pick An enemy. And I remembered these guys from Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Tin bots. Tin bots are basically robot things, and they remind me of the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz, but that's not relevant at any point. Tin bots basically walk around and are really stupid. They're really easy to kill, they have little to no armor, and especially once you get the heat laser, you can literally melt these things. And I won't tell you, or I can't really explain to you how satisfying it is when you see one of these guys melt into a pile of molten metal. Their attacks are weak, and they barely ever attack. When they do, they attack with this little laser thing. The reason why they're so low on this list is because they actually do attack, and their attack is ranged, even though it doesn't do that much damage. Up next, at whatever spot I put this enemy at, is the zombies from Minecraft. This classical enemy from Minecraft has been sucky ever since the beginning of Minecraft. Uh, at least up until Minecraft update 1.5 point something, I think. Uh, because they added something to the zombies that makes it really annoying, and I'll tell you that later. So I'm generally just talking about the zombies that are before that. The zombies that are before that would be, they're pretty easy to kill, especially when there's only one of them. They charge directly at the player, and all you have to do is stand there, wait for them to get in range of your attack, and then just click. And then they'll take a little bit of knockback and walk straight towards you again. You just wait until they're in range and then attack again. You don't even have to move to kill these things. They're really sad and slow. You can easily outrun them. Um, they burn in the sunlight, so they can't even fight you at day. Although when they are burning and they hit you, they pass on the fire to you, which is pretty annoying. The zombies were, at one point in the olden days, dropped feathers, and I have no idea why that is. Maybe they're zombified chickens. Maybe they had, like, Indian feather headdresses. I don't know, but they did drop feathers. Now they drop rotten flesh, which makes a little bit more sense. That was not relevant to the enemy at all. The thing that makes zombies really hard to kill with the new update is that sometimes when you hit a zombie, it'll spawn another zombie off where a player can't see. So basically, it's like a zombie infection thing, where if one zombie, or well, if you're fighting one zombie, another zombie would hear the fighting and come to help that zombie out. And then when you kill the zombie that's summoned, it summons like two more, and then there's always a crapload of zombies following you. So you basically have to wait until day. However, fire damage I don't think does it, so it doesn't like a spawn a bunch in daytime. Else that'd be really annoying. You just constantly be hearing zombies burning everywhere. First four slot on my list, I've picked the eyeball things from Kid Icarus Uprising. Specifically when you're flying. I don't even know if you see any when you're on the ground. These eyeball things basically fly towards Pit in the air and don't. I think they do occasionally fire small energy blasts. And especially on like low and even decent difficulties, they really suck. The only reason why they're not like higher is because on higher difficulties, obviously they're really hard. Specifically like 7, 8, 9, they do a lot of damage, and that's why they're not higher than that. Yeah! Number three. Number three is kind of a weird choice. I've recently been playing Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, and this is honestly one of my favorite. Actually, it's honestly pretty much my favorite in the series of the Elder Scrolls. Yes, I've played Skyrim. In fact, and even the enemy from Skyrim was on this list, but I don't know. There's something about Morrowind that makes it feel more immersive, but I'm not really here to talk about Morrowind as much as the specific enemy from it. The enemy in question is called the Scrib. I'm not really sure what the Scrib does, but I do know that it has a low amount of health and you can easily kill it with just about any weapon. Also, they appear to cast magic at you, but it doesn't appear to ever work. So, they have a low amount of health, they don't really attack you unless you attack them, and they do hinder you by casting a spell that I don't know what it does because it never succeeds. Um, that's pretty much all I have to say about them. For my number 2 slot, I've picked the Broom Hatter. And what a surprise, it's a Kirby enemy. Now to be honest, a lot of Kirby enemies suck. You can just fly over them and just kill them. They aren't really that strong at all. So, why the Broom Hatter? Because, well, he sits there sweeping. Ah, he's a freaking maid. He just sits there and sweeps dust. And also, if you get hit by the Broom Hatter when he attacks you, well, runs into you accidentally, I guess, it kills him. He dies. So when he actually attacks you, he kills himself. He's a kamikaze suicide sweeper. See what I did there? Uh, he sucks. Anyway, for my number one slot of enemy, I'm not going to tell you because I'm going to do a recap first. Ha! Stacky Scrubs for number 10, Koopas for number 9, Bandits for number 8, Soldiers for number 7, Tin Bots for number 5, Zombies for number 4, Eyeball Things from Kid Icarus, Scribs from Morrowind, Broom Hatters from Kirby, and for my number 1 slot, I picked these things from Super Mario Sunshine. To be honest, I have no idea what these are called, but ever since I was young, I've called them slime snails, mostly because they're made of slime and they look kind of like slugs, which aren't snails, but for the sake of this list, I'm just going to call them slime snails because that's what I've always called them since my childhood. To be honest, Super Mario Sunshine was probably the second or third game that I ever owned, so I obviously have a lot of nostalgia while playing it. And slime snails, probably one of the first and, again, the crappiest enemies of all time, is from that game. Now I'll explain to you why they're so crappy. Well, first off, they suck mostly because, first off, they can be killed just like any Mario enemy. You can simply jump on their head and bam, dead. However, that's not really that special since there are a lot of enemies in this list that can be easily killed. So it's not necessarily on how this enemy is killed more than its attack. It can also be killed by simply squirting out the most minimal amount of water from your squirt nozzle and your flood thing backpack, and they're dead. Gone. However, another thing to notice is that these things are crappy for one other reason. Look at this. Okay, they flash ridiculously long before their attack, and then they jump. And if, just like the Broom Hatter, if they actually manage to hit you, they die. Also notice that they do a minimal amount of damage to Mario, considering how much health he has in this game. It does like one blip of damage to him. One freaking blip. Come on. Also, another thing. If they miss Mario, they die. At least the Broom Hatter didn't die when he swept. Not only do these things jump at you, give you such a warning, and deal a minimal amount of damage, but even if they fail their one singular purpose in life, even if they fail to inflict damage on Mario, they still die. Their fate is sealed once they begin to jump. I have to say, that's gotta take a lot of guts for those freaking things, but that's just sucky. That's the only words I can use to explain this enemy right now. And that's pretty much it. End part. One thing I forgot to mention in my, wasn't a top 10 hopes videos for Super Smash Brothers, whatever, I forgot to mention that I would like for characters to show battle damage when they have high amount of percentage, take a high knockback thing, or get hit with a final smash, or maybe all three. That's all I have to say on that. If you feel like subscribing, then go ahead. If you feel like liking, go ahead. If you feel like disliking, don't do that, because I said so. Hey, I have annotation things to my other videos. What? If you want to see my top 10 videos for Super Smash Brothers characters, or my top 10 hopes video that I talked about, then go ahead. If you were offended by my dislike thing, then sorry. However, if you weren't offended, be offended. See ya.